Get on the ground, now! Hands behind your back! Officer Daniels slams Diana Reeves face first against her own front door, the sound of her cheek hitting mahogany echoing through the upscale neighborhood. Metal handcuffs bite into her wrists as he forces her arms behind her back. "Please, this is my house!" Diana tries to speak. "Shut up! You're under arrest for breaking and entering!" Daniels jerks her away from the door she just opened with her own key. Neighbors peek from behind curtains as he marches her toward the patrol car like a common criminal. Diana doesn't resist. Don't scream. Her silence isn't fear. It's the deadly calm of someone who knows exactly what's about to happen next. In 60 minutes, his entire world will collapse. Have you ever been brutalized by people who were supposed to protect you? 3 hours earlier, Diana Reeves stepped out of her marble shower and wrapped herself in Egyptian cotton. Monday mornings meant federal briefings, but today felt different. Her phone buzzed with encrypted messages, another dirty cop case breaking open, another precinct about to face her wrath. She moved through her morning routine with military precision. Coffee from her Italian espresso machine, toast on bone china inherited from her grandmother. The FBI credentials clipped to her Hermes purse sat next to car keys for her Tesla, symbols of a career built on taking down corrupt officers who thought they were untouchable. Diana had earned this life. Harvard Law, FBI Academy, 15 years climbing ranks while lesser agents fell by the wayside. Her brownstone in the city's most exclusive neighborhood wasn't luck. It was justice served, one dirty badge at a time. But Karen Whitmore saw something else entirely. Karen pressed her face against her kitchen window, watching Diana load files into her car. For 2 years, she'd been making calls. First to the Homeowners Association about suspicious vehicles, then to the city about noise complaints. Each time, authorities found nothing because there was nothing to find. This morning, Karen's rage finally boiled over. 911? What's your emergency? There's a black woman breaking into the house next door. Karen lied into her phone, voice dripping with fake panic. She's been coming and going for weeks. I think she's causing a robbery. The dispatcher's fingers flew across her keyboard. Can you describe the suspect? African-American female, maybe 40, wearing expensive clothes. Probably stolen. She has keys, but that doesn't mean anything. These people are getting smarter. Karen had no idea she was describing a federal agent who specialized in investigating exactly this kind of bias. Diana's current caseload included 3 precincts under federal oversight, 2 chiefs facing criminal charges, and dozens of officers whose careers she'd personally destroyed. The dispatch call crackled through Officer Daniels' radio 20 minutes later. Possible breaking and entering 1247 Maple Avenue. Suspect is black female, approximately 40 years old, maybe armed. Daniels perked up in his patrol car. This neighborhood meant money, and money meant publicity if he made a good arrest. His partner Torres glanced at the address with concern. That was the same street where his own captain had warned them to be extra careful about complaints. Isn't that the area where we had those false alarm calls? Torres asked. Every call is real until proven otherwise, Daniels replied, but his tone suggested he'd already made up his mind about what they'd find. Daniels had 18 years on the force and a philosophy that had served him well. Trust your gut, act fast, ask questions later. His gut told him that black people in expensive neighborhoods usually meant trouble. His personnel file contained 17 complaints about excessive force, but his sergeant always backed him up. What Daniels didn't know was that his precinct was already under federal investigation. Diana's team had been building a case for months, documenting patterns of racial bias, excessive force, and departmental cover-ups. Her files contained Daniels' name highlighted in red, a primary target for federal prosecution. The irony was perfect, the hunter about to become prey. Diana's phone buzzed with a text from her partner, Agent Carter. Running late for the briefing, Daniel's case about to break wide open. Where are you? Diana typed back. Leaving now, this one's going to be big. She had no idea she was about to become the star witness in her own case. As Daniels and Torres drove toward Maple Avenue, Diana locked her front door and activated her security system. Multiple cameras captured her every movement, evidence that would later prove crucial. Her keys jingled in her manicured hands, the same hands that had signed federal arrest warrants for corrupt officers across 3 states. The morning sun cast long shadows across her perfectly manicured lawn. In 60 minutes, that same lawn would be trampled by backup officers, crime scene tape, and the boots of the man who was about to make the worst mistake of his career. Diana climbed into her Tesla, adjusted her rearview mirror, and saw Karen still watching from her window. She waved politely, the last gesture of kindness Karen would receive before federal agents knocked on her door with handcuffs. The trap was set. The hunters were coming. They just didn't know who they were hunting. The patrol car screeched to a halt as Diana pulled back into her driveway. She'd forgotten her laptop, the one containing classified files on police corruption that could never leave her possession. A rookie mistake, but even federal agents were human. Officer Daniels burst from his vehicle like a man on a mission. His hand rested on his weapon as he approached Diana's car, Torres trailing behind with visible reluctance. "Step out of the vehicle. Keep your hands where I can see them." Diana turned off the engine slowly, her movements deliberate and controlled. She'd been in worse situations, drug raids, armed standoffs, terrorist investigations, but something about Daniel's aggressive posture triggered every alarm bell in her federal training. "Officer, I live here," Diana said calmly, stepping out with her hands visible. "This is my home." "Sure it is," Daniel sneered, his eyes scanning her designer clothes with suspicion. "And I'm the Pope. You got an ID, princess?" The word hit like a slap. Diana reached for her purse, but Daniels grabbed her wrist with bruising force. "Slow, real slow. What's in the bag?" Diana's FBI credentials were inches away, but she made a calculated decision. Let him dig his own grave first. Let the cameras capture everything. Let him hang himself with his own bias before she revealed the rope he was using. "My identification is in my wallet," she said evenly. Daniels snatched her purse and dumped the contents across her car hood. Credit cards scattered. Her FBI badge clattered against the metal, face down. Daniels saw designer makeup, expensive sunglasses, a Tesla key fob. "How's a girl like you who can afford all this fancy stuff?" His tone dripped with implication. "Are you dealing drugs? Turning tricks for rich white men?" Torres stepped forward. "Dan, maybe we should shut up and watch the perimeter." Daniels picked up Diana's driver's license, studying it like a forgery. 1247 Maple Avenue. Same address as the house. He looked up at Diana with theatrical surprise. Well, well, looks like we got ourselves a real smart criminal. Fake IDs and everything." "That's not fake," Diana said. "I own this property. I can show you the deed." "Oh, you got papers too? How convenient." Daniels tossed her license back onto the pile. "Let me guess. You inherited it from your rich white boyfriend when he died." The racism was so blatant that even Torres winced. But Diana remained calm, her mind working like the trained investigator she was. Every word was being recorded by body cameras, every gesture captured by her security system. Daniels was building her case for her. "Sir, if you'd like to verify my ownership, the property records are public." "Don't tell me how to do my job," Daniels exploded. "You people think you can just move into decent neighborhoods and nobody will notice? Think you can buy respectability with stolen money?" That's when Karen Whitmore made her grand entrance. "Officers! Thank God you're here!" Karen rushed across the lawn, her phone already recording. "I saw her breaking in earlier. She's been casing this house for weeks." Diana turned to face her lying neighbor. "Karen, you know that's not true." "Don't you dare speak to me!" Karen shrieked, playing her victim role to perfection. "I've been terrorized by this woman for months. She threatens me, plays loud music, brings drug dealers to the neighborhood." Torres looked confused. The house was clearly well-maintained, the woman was obviously educated, and nothing about this situation matched the 911 call. But Daniels had found his star witness. "Ma'am, are you the one who called this in?" he asked Karen. "Yes, I've been calling for months, but nobody listens. These people think they can do whatever they want because of political correctness." Diana's jaw tightened. Karen was lying so smoothly, so confidently, that she almost believed it herself. This was exactly the kind of witness bias that Diana had spent her career documenting and prosecuting. "Officer, I'd like to call my attorney," Diana said. "Your attorney?" Daniels laughed. "What kind of attorney does a burglar need? The public defender's office is going to love this one." He grabbed Diana's arm and spun her around, slamming her face first against her own car. The metal was cold against her cheek as he wrenched her arms behind her back. "You're under arrest for breaking and entering, possession of stolen property, and resisting arrest." "I haven't resisted anything," Diana said through gritted teeth. "You're resisting right now." Daniels cranked the handcuffs tight enough to cut off circulation. "Stop struggling." Diana wasn't struggling. She was standing perfectly still, letting him demonstrate exactly why federal oversight existed. But struggling was what Daniels needed to see, so struggling was what he reported. Torres moved closer, his discomfort obvious. "Dan, her ID matches the address. Maybe you should do your job instead of second-guessing me." Daniels yanked Diana upright, parading her past gathering neighbors like a trophy. "This is what happens when criminals think they can infiltrate decent communities." Mrs. Patterson from across the street lowered her phone. She'd been recording everything, and what she saw didn't match what Daniels was saying. The woman in handcuffs looked more composed than the officer arresting her. "Is that really necessary?" Mrs. Patterson called out. "She wasn't resisting." "Ma'am, please step back and let us handle this," Torres said politely, but his eyes showed doubt. Daniel shoved Diana toward the patrol car. "You picked the wrong neighborhood, Princess. These good people don't want your kind here." Diana's mind cataloged every violation, every slur, every constitutional breach. Unlawful arrest, excessive force, racial profiling, false imprisonment. She was building a federal case in real time, and Daniels was the unwitting star witness against himself. As he forced her head down and pushed her into the back seat, Diana caught sight of her scattered belongings still spread across her car hood. Her FBI badge lay face down in the morning sun, its gold eagle invisible but not forgotten. The irony was so perfect it was almost poetic. The man arresting her had no idea she spent her days arresting men exactly like him. Karen stood in the driveway, filming everything with glee. She'd finally gotten rid of the uppity neighbor who made her feel small just by existing. She had no idea that lying to federal agents was a felony, or that Diana's security cameras had recorded every false statement she'd made over the past 2 years. As the patrol car pulled away, Diana's phone buzzed in her purse, still scattered on her car hood. Agent Carter was calling for the 3rd time, wondering why the FBI's most feared internal affairs investigator was missing the biggest briefing of her career. The briefing about the federal investigation into this exact precinct, the investigation Diana was supposed to be leading. The car radio crackled. "Unit 47, transport to central booking. 1 female suspect breaking and entering." Torres keyed his radio reluctantly. "Copy that, Central. En route to booking." In the back seat, Diana closed her eyes and smiled. They had no idea what was coming. The 15-minute ride to the station felt like hours. Diana sat in silence, her mind racing through federal statutes and constitutional violations. Each bump in the road sent the handcuffs deeper into her wrists, but she'd endured worse during FBI training. Pain was temporary. Justice was forever. Daniels kept glancing in the rearview mirror, expecting tears or pleas for mercy. Instead, he saw a woman staring out the window with the calm focus of someone planning their next move. "You're awfully quiet back there," he taunted. "Usually you people are screaming about your rights by now." Diana didn't respond. Every word he spoke was being recorded by body cameras that would later be subpoenaed by federal prosecutors. Let him keep talking. Let him bury himself deeper. Torres shifted uncomfortably in the passenger seat. Something about this arrest felt wrong. The woman's demeanor, her expensive clothes, the way she carried herself. Nothing matched the profile of a typical burglar. But questioning Daniels in front of a suspect would undermine police authority. "Dan, when we get to booking, maybe we should call the supervisor," Torres suggested quietly. "For what? This is textbook probable cause." Daniels pulled into the station parking lot with satisfaction. Sometimes the job is just this easy. As they escorted Diana through the station doors, she memorized every detail: badge numbers, camera locations, witness positions. Her federal training had taught her to gather intelligence even under arrest, especially under arrest. The booking officer looked up from his paperwork, his expression shifting from boredom to confusion as he saw Diana's composed demeanor and professional appearance. "What's the charge?" he asked. "Breaking and entering, possession of stolen property," Daniels announced proudly. Caught her red-handed in a $1 million house. The booking officer studied Diana's face. Something about her seemed familiar, but he couldn't place it. She had the bearing of someone accustomed to authority, not someone who broke into houses for a living. "I'd like to make my phone call now," Diana said calmly. Daniels laughed. "Phone calls come after processing, sweetheart. You'll get your chance to call your drug dealer soon enough." But Torres was studying the booking computer screen, his face growing pale. A federal security clearance had just popped up in the database. Active status, current as of this morning. "Dan," Torres said quietly, "we might have a problem." The booking computer screen froze Torres in place. Active federal security clearance, current status, classification level that made his stomach drop. "Dan, you need to see this," Torres whispered. But Daniels was already strutting toward the holding cells like a conquering hero. "Put her in cell 3, Daniels called over his shoulder. "The one with the broken toilet. Let her get comfortable with where people like her belong." Diana walked into the cell without protest, her heels clicking against concrete like a judge entering a courtroom. She sat on the metal bench and clasped her hands, the picture of dignified patience. Most arrestees would be pacing, crying, or demanding lawyers. Diana looked like she was waiting for a business meeting. Across town, FBI agent Sarah Carter paced the federal building's briefing room, checking her watch for the 5th time. Diana was never late. Not to briefings, not to anything. Especially not today, when they were finalizing arrests for the biggest police corruption case in the city's history. "Where the hell is Diana?" Carter muttered, dialing her partner's number again. Straight to voicemail. The irony was lost on everyone in the room. They were planning to arrest corrupt officers from the exact precinct where Diana now sat in a cell, handcuffed by the very men they were investigating. Back at the station, Torres pulled Daniels aside with trembling hands. "We have a serious problem. Look at this." Torres pointed at the computer screen. "Federal clearance, active status. This woman isn't some burglar." Daniels squinted at the screen dismissively. "Computer glitch. Happens all the time. These criminals are getting better at identity theft." "Dan, this isn't identity theft. The photo matches, the biometrics match, everything matches. So what if she works for some government office? Plenty of federal paper pushers commit crimes. Doesn't change anything." But Torres was already calling the FBI field office, his voice shaking as he explained the situation to the duty agent. The response made his blood freeze. "Special Agent Diana Reeves? Are you insane? She's our lead internal affairs investigator. If you've arrested her, you better have ironclad evidence or you're all going to federal prison." Torres hung up and grabbed Daniels by the shoulder. "We arrested a federal agent who investigates police corruption." "Bullshit!" Daniels spat, but his confidence was cracking. "She's a criminal. I know a criminal when I see one." The booking officer approached with Diana's personal effects, his face pale as he held up the FBI badge that had been face down on her car hood. "Special Agent Diana Reeves, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Internal Affairs Division," he read aloud. "Badge number 2847, issued January 15th, 2010. The station went silent. Even the background chatter of dispatch calls seemed to pause as the magnitude of the situation sank in. Daniel stared at the badge like it was a bomb about to explode. "That's fake. Has to be fake. Check the serial number." The booking officer was already on the phone with FBI verification. The conversation lasted 30 seconds. When he hung up, his face was gray. "It's real! She's real! We just arrested one of the most senior FBI agents in the country." In her cell, Diana heard every word through the thin walls. She'd been wondering how long it would take them to figure it out. Longer than expected, which would make excellent evidence in court. Her phone, still scattered on her car hood back home, buzzed with increasingly frantic calls from the FBI field office. Carter had escalated the missing agent report to the deputy director level. Search teams were being mobilized. Federal prosecutors were being notified. The system Diana had spent 15 years serving was now mobilizing to find her. And it was about to find her in the last place anyone expected. Sergeant Murphy emerged from his office, his face red with panic as he processed what his officers had done. 26 years on the force, and he'd never seen anything this catastrophic. "Release her, now! Cut the cuffs, apologize, and pray she doesn't have us all thrown in federal prison." Sarge, she was breaking into a house, Daniels started. She was the house. It's her house, her mortgage, her property. Murphy was screaming now. You arrested a federal agent for entering her own home based on a racist neighbor's lie. Torres was already heading to the cells with the key, his hands shaking so badly he could barely fit it in the lock. But when he reached cell 3, Diana held up one perfectly manicured hand. Don't, she said calmly. I haven't made my phone call yet. Torres stopped mid-step. Ma'am, we can release you right now. No paperwork, no record. This whole thing never happened. Diana smiled for the first time since her arrest. It wasn't a friendly smile. Oh, but it did happen, and I'm going to make sure everyone remembers it. She stood and walked to the cell phone mounted on the wall. I'd like to make my call now. Diana lifted the grimy jail phone to her ear and dialed a number she knew by heart. The phone rang once before a familiar voice answered. Agent Carter. Sarah, this is Diana, badge number 2847. Across town in the federal building, Carter nearly dropped her coffee. Diana, where the hell are you? We've got SWAT teams looking for you. I'm in a holding cell at the 47th precinct. Diana's voice was calm, almost conversational. I've been arrested for breaking and entering, into my own home. The silence on the other end stretched for 5 seconds that felt like hours. You're where? Cell 3 at the 47th. The irony isn't lost on me, Sarah. They arrested the lead investigator of their own corruption case. Through the thin walls, Diana could hear frantic conversations erupting throughout the station. Torres was explaining to Sergeant Murphy. Murphy was screaming at Daniels. Someone was frantically calling the police chief. Diana, are you hurt? Did they? I'm fine. Bruised wrists from overly tight handcuffs, but nothing that won't heal. Everything's been recorded on body cameras. We'll have evidence for days. Chen was already grabbing her jacket and federal credentials. I'm coming to get you. Don't say another word until I get there. Actually, Sarah, patch me through to Director Walsh. It's time to make some calls. The phone clicked, and 30 seconds later, the deep voice of FBI Director Robert Walsh filled the receiver. Agent Reeves, what's your status? Detained but unharmed, sir. We have a situation that requires immediate federal intervention. Explain. Diana could hear boots running through the station hallway. Panic was spreading like wildfire. Sir, I've been arrested by officers from the same precinct we're investigating for corruption. They handcuffed me, degraded me, and threw me in a cell based entirely on racial bias and a neighbor's false report. We now have ironclad evidence of the systematic problems we've been documenting. Jesus Christ. Director Walsh's voice was barely controlled fury. How many officers are involved? The primary arresting officer is Daniel Daniels, badge 4472. He's already on our watch list for excessive force complaints. His partner Torres showed reluctance but failed to intervene. Multiple constitutional violations captured on body cameras. Are you requesting federal intervention? Diana paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. This was the nuclear option. Once she said yes, there would be no going back. The full power of the federal government would descend on this precinct like an avalanche. Yes, sir, I am. Consider it done. Federal marshals are en route. Nobody leaves that building until we sort this mess out. The line went dead, and Diana hung up the phone. She turned to find Torres standing outside her cell, his face pale as death. Ma'am, Agent Reeves, I'm so sorry. This is all a huge misunderstanding. Officer Torres. Diana's voice carried the authority of someone who'd sent corrupt cops to federal prison. Everything that happened today was recorded. Your body camera, the station cameras, my home security system. There are no misunderstandings, only evidence. Torres fumbled with the cell keys. Please, let me get you out of there. Not yet. Diana sat back down on the metal bench, crossing her legs like she was in a boardroom. I want to experience the full extent of your department's hospitality before I leave. Down the hallway, Sergeant Murphy was on the phone with Police Chief Harrison, his voice cracking with panic. Chief, we've got a federal situation. Daniels arrested an FBI agent. Not just any agent, internal affairs, the one investigating us. Chief Harrison's response was explosive. What the fuck did you just say? She's here, in our holding cell. Federal agents are on their way. Get me Daniels, now! Daniels approached the phone like a man walking to his execution. His swagger had evaporated the moment he saw Diana's federal badge. Chief? You worthless piece of shit. Do you have any idea what you've done? Sir, I was responding to a 911 call about a break-in. You arrested the FBI agent investigating our department for corruption. She's been building a case against us for months, and you just handed her everything she needs. The phone slammed down, leaving Daniels staring at the receiver in shock. Meanwhile, Diana's arrest had triggered emergency protocols throughout the federal system. The FBI deputy director was calling the mayor. The Justice Department was mobilizing civil rights prosecutors. U.S. Marshals were already in their vehicles, racing toward the 47th precinct. Agent Carter burst through the station doors with federal credentials raised and 3 other agents flanking her. "I'm Special Agent Sarah Carter, FBI. Where is Special Agent Diana Reeves?" Sergeant Murphy approached with his hands raised like he was surrendering. "Agent Carter, there's been a terrible mistake. The only mistake was arresting a federal agent for the crime of being black in her own home." Carter's voice could have cut glass. "Where is she?" "Cell 3. But we were just about to—" "Nobody moves until the U.S. Marshals arrive. This is now a federal crime scene." Through the chaos, Diana could hear car doors slamming in the parking lot. Heavy boots on concrete. The sound of federal authority asserting itself. But the biggest shock was yet to come. Agent Carter approached Diana's cell and held up a classified folder marked Operation Blue Wall. "Diana, you need to see this. The timing is incredible." Diana read the first page through the cell bars, and for the first time all day, her composed facade cracked. The federal investigation she'd been leading wasn't just about this precinct. It was about a network of corrupt officers spanning 5 precincts, including systematic racial bias, evidence tampering, and civil rights violations. Officer Daniels wasn't just a target. He was the primary target, and he'd just arrested his own prosecutor. "Sarah, please tell me we got all of this on tape." "Body cameras, security cameras, jail phones, everything. The Attorney General wants to make this case a national example." Diana finally smiled. A real smile this time, not the controlled expression she'd worn all morning. "Then let's give them a show they'll never forget." The sound of federal agents flooding the building echoed through the station. U.S. Marshals, Justice Department prosecutors, internal affairs investigators. The hunters had become the hunted. And Diana Reeves, still sitting calmly in her jail cell, was about to become the most powerful woman in the building. The 47th precinct transformed into a federal command center within an hour. U.S. Marshals stationed themselves at every exit. FBI technicians seized body cameras, computer systems, and surveillance equipment. Justice Department prosecutors set up interview rooms in empty offices. Deputy Director Marcus Thompson arrived like a force of nature, his federal credentials parting the sea of panicked officers. At 55, Thompson had spent 30 years prosecuting police corruption, and his reputation preceded him like thunder before lightning. "Where's Agent Reeves?" he demanded. "Still in holding, sir," Agent Carter replied. "She refuses to leave until she's made her statement." Thompson's laugh was sharp and humorless. "She's turning their own jail into an interrogation room." Brilliant. In Cell 3, Diana had transformed her concrete cage into a mobile office. She'd requested legal pads, federal forms, and her personal laptop, all provided by agents who treated her requests like executive orders. For the first time in FBI history, the most important federal investigation in the city was being conducted from inside a police holding cell. The symbolism was perfect, and Diana knew it. Meanwhile, chaos erupted throughout the station as federal agents moved with military precision. Evidence lockers were sealed. Computer hard drives were confiscated. Every piece of paper, every digital file, every body camera recording from the past 2 years was now federal evidence. Sergeant Murphy paced his office like a caged animal, watching his career evaporate in real time. Phone calls flooded in from the police chief, the mayor's office, and the media. Within hours, this would be national news. FBI agent arrested in her own home by the very cops she was investigating. Officer Daniels sat in an empty break room, his head in his hands. Other officers avoided him like he had the plague. His union representative had already arrived, but even the lawyer looked defeated. There was no defense for what had been captured on camera. "Jesus Christ, Danny," his union rep muttered, reviewing the body cam footage. "You called her a prostitute on camera while arresting her in her own driveway." Thompson approached Diana's cell with the reverence of visiting a wounded warrior. "Agent Reeves, I'm Deputy Director Thompson. Are you ready to proceed?" "More than ready, sir." Diana stood and straightened her wrinkled blouse. "I want to give my statement before they have time to coordinate their lies. What about medical attention, documentation of injuries?" Diana held up her wrists, showing deep red marks from the handcuffs. "Federal photographers are already documenting everything. The evidence speaks for itself." Thompson nodded approvingly. This was why Diana was the FBI's most feared internal affairs investigator. She understood that perception was reality, and reality was about to become very ugly for the 47th Precinct. "Sir, before we begin interrogations, I need to show you something." Diana pulled out her phone, which agents had retrieved from her car. "My home security system captured everything, not just the arrest, but Karen Whitmore's behavior for the past 6 months. The footage was damning. Karen deliberately spreads rumors about Diana to other neighbors. Karen timed her complaints to coincide with Diana's arrival home from work. Karen coached other residents to view Diana as suspicious simply for existing in their neighborhood. This is a conspiracy to violate civil rights," Thompson observed. "Federal hate crime territory." "It gets worse," Diana continued. "I've been tracking similar patterns in 5 other gentrifying neighborhoods. White residents weaponizing police against black homeowners through false reports. It's systematic, organized, and racially motivated." Thompson's expression hardened. "How many precincts?" 7 that we know of. This could be the biggest civil rights case since the 1960s. Federal agents were simultaneously conducting interviews throughout the building. Officer Martinez, who'd witnessed Daniel's previous racist behavior, was finally given the opportunity to report what he'd been afraid to say for years. Desk Sergeant Williams was presenting evidence of complaint patterns that had been systematically ignored by supervisors. The truth was hemorrhaging from every corner of the precinct. "Bring me Officer Daniels first," Diana requested. "I want to look him in the eye when he realizes what he's done." Daniels was escorted to the interview room by federal agents, his face ashen and his hands shaking. Gone was the swaggering bully who'd arrested Diana 4 hours earlier. In his place sat a broken man who understood his career was over. Diana entered the room still wearing her wrinkled clothes and handcuff marks. The visual impact was devastating, the victim confronting her abuser with the full power of federal law behind her. "Officer Daniels," Diana began, her voice calm but carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Do you know who I am?" "Yes, ma'am," Daniels whispered. "Say it out loud, for the record. You're Special Agent Diana Reeves, FBI Internal Affairs." "That's right. And do you know what I do for a living?" Daniels swallowed hard. "You investigate police corruption. More specifically, I investigate officers exactly like you. Officers who abuse their power. Officers who violate citizens' constitutional rights. Officers who think their badge gives them permission to brutalize people based on skin color." Diana leaned forward, her eyes never leaving his face. "For the past 6 months, I've been building a federal case against you and 15 other officers in this precinct. Sexual assault cover-ups, evidence tampering, systematic racial bias, civil rights violations. Your name is highlighted in red on my target list, Officer Daniels." The color drained from Daniel's face. I didn't know." "You didn't know I was FBI, so you thought it was safe to assault me. You didn't know I was documenting corruption, so you thought it was safe to be corrupt. But what you absolutely knew was that I was a black woman in an expensive neighborhood, and that was enough for you to assume I didn't belong." Diana pulled out a thick file folder and spread photographs across the table. Each photo showed a black person Daniels had arrested under questionable circumstances over the past 3 years. Marcus Washington, arrested for suspicious behavior while jogging in his own neighborhood. Charges dropped. Keisha Johnson, arrested for disturbing the peace while talking on her phone outside her own office building. Charges dropped. Jerome Phillips, arrested for loitering while waiting for his wife outside a restaurant. Charges dropped. With each name, Daniels seemed to shrink further into his chair. 17 cases, Officer Daniels. 17 black citizens you've arrested on fabricated charges. 0 convictions. 100% dismissal rate. Do you see a pattern? Agent Reeves, I was just doing my job. Your job is to serve and protect. Instead, you've been hunting and harassing. But today, you made a fatal mistake. You arrested the person investigating you. Diana stood and walked to the window overlooking the precinct bullpen, where federal agents were interviewing officers and seizing evidence. Every lie you told about me today, you've told about others. Every violation of my rights you've committed against citizens who didn't have federal badges to protect them. Every racist assumption you made about me, you've made about people who couldn't fight back. She turned back to face Daniels, her expression deadly serious. But I can fight back, and I will. The door opened and Agent Carter entered with another thick file. Diana, you need to see this. We found Karen Whitmore's complaint history. Diana opened the file and her eyebrows rose. 57 false reports over 5 years. 49 against black residents, 8 against Latino families, 0 against white neighbors. It gets worse, Carter continued. We found text messages between her and other neighbors organizing to drive out undesirable elements from the community. They've been using false police reports as a weapon. The evidence was staggering. Screenshots of neighborhood group chats where Karen and 3 other residents planned coordinated harassment campaigns, detailed logs of when black families received packages, had visitors, or played music, instructions on how to phrase 911 calls to ensure police response. Karen Whitmore wasn't just a concerned neighbor, Diana realized. She was running a systematic campaign of harassment using police as her enforcers, and you were her weapon of choice. Diana looked back at Daniels. You responded to 43 of Karen's calls over 2 years, 43 false reports targeting minority residents. Not once did you question her credibility. Not once did you investigate whether her complaints were legitimate. Daniels' lawyer finally spoke up. Agent Reeves, my client is willing to cooperate fully with any federal investigation. Your client is going to federal prison, Diana interrupted. The only question is whether he takes the entire precinct with him or just himself. Thompson appeared in the doorway. Agent Reeves, we're ready for Torres. Officer Torres entered the room looking like a man facing execution. Unlike Daniels, Torres had shown hesitation during the arrest, and Diana had noticed. Officer Torres, you've been Daniels' partner for 2 years. You've witnessed his pattern of behavior. You saw me produce valid identification proving I lived at that address. You heard him make racially charged comments, yet you did nothing to stop the arrest. Torres shifted uncomfortably. Ma'am, I was following my partner's lead. Were you following his lead when he called me princess? When he suggested I was a prostitute? When he slammed me against my own car? No, ma'am, those things were wrong. But you said nothing, did nothing. In law enforcement, silence is complicity, Officer Torres. Diana pulled out Torres's personnel file. 8 years on the force, decent record, no excessive force complaints, several commendations for community service. You're not like Daniels, are you? No, ma'am, I'm not. Then why did you participate in my arrest? Torres struggled with the question, his internal conflict visible on his face. Because he's my partner. Because I trusted his judgment, because I was afraid to challenge him. And because I was black, Diana added quietly. Torres flinched. Yes, ma'am. If you had been a white woman in that neighborhood, I would have questioned the arrest. I would have pushed back harder. It was the first honest answer she'd heard all day. Officer Torres, you have a choice to make. You can go down with Daniels and face federal charges as a co-conspirator, or you can testify truthfully about what you witnessed and help us clean up this department. Torres looked at his hands, then back at Diana. What do you need me to do? Tell the truth. All of it. The racist comments, the excessive force, the pattern of behavior you've witnessed. Help us make sure this never happens to anyone else. Thompson stepped forward with federal immunity paperwork. Officer Torres, in exchange for your full cooperation and truthful testimony, the federal government is prepared to offer you immunity from prosecution. Torres signed the papers with shaking hands, effectively ending Daniels' career and sealing his own redemption. As Diana finally walked out of her own jail cell and through the precinct she'd just conquered, every officer she passed looked away in shame. The hunter had become the hunted, and justice was no longer theoretical. 6 weeks later, the federal courthouse buzzed with anticipation as the most significant civil rights case in decades reached its climax. Media trucks lined the street, civil rights leaders filled the gallery, the nation was watching. Diana sat at the prosecution table, no longer the woman in handcuffs, but the federal agent who would reshape American policing. Her testimony had been devastating, precise, and unshakable. Every racist comment, every constitutional violation, every moment of her arrest had been dissected under oath. Federal Judge Margaret Carter, no relation to Agent Carter, reviewed the mountain of evidence before rendering judgment. Body camera footage, security recordings, text message conspiracies, financial records showing the systematic exclusion of minority residents from the neighborhood. In 30 years on the bench, Judge Carter began, I have rarely seen such a clear-cut case of institutional racism and civil rights violations. Officer Daniels sat with his head bowed as the judge continued. Mr. Daniels, you arrested a federal agent in her own home based solely on racial bias. You subjected her to physical and verbal abuse. You violated every oath you took as a police officer. Your actions represent the worst of American law enforcement. The gavel fell with finality. 5 years in federal prison, no possibility of parole. Daniels' wife sobbed in the gallery. His children would grow up knowing their father was a convicted criminal. Justice had a price, and he was paying it in full. Karen Whitmore's sentencing was equally swift and brutal. Miss Whitmore, Judge Carter's voice carried contempt, you weaponized law enforcement against your black neighbors for over 5 years. You filed 57 false reports designed to harass, intimidate, and drive minority families from their homes. Your text messages reveal a level of racial hatred that belongs in history books, not modern America. Karen's lawyer tried one final plea for mercy, but the evidence was overwhelming. 2 years in federal prison for conspiracy to violate civil rights. Additionally, you will pay full restitution to every family you targeted, estimated at $2.3 million in damages, legal fees, and emotional distress. Karen collapsed in her chair. Her house would be sold to pay the judgments. Her social media empire of neighborhood watch groups was disbanded. The woman who'd tried to destroy Diana's life had lost everything. But the real transformation was happening at the 47th Precinct. Federal oversight had descended like a cleansing storm. Captain Harrison was forced into early retirement. Sergeant Murphy faced criminal charges for covering up complaint patterns. 15 officers were suspended pending investigation. Officer Torres, true to his immunity agreement, had become the star witness for reform. His testimony helped convict 3 other officers and exposed a culture of racism that ran deeper than anyone imagined. Torres showed us that good cops exist, Diana explained to reporters outside the courthouse. They just need systems that reward courage instead of silence. The precinct's transformation was measurable and dramatic. New community liaisons, all from minority backgrounds, were hired to rebuild trust. Mandatory bias training became monthly, not yearly. Body cameras were reviewed by federal monitors, not internal affairs. Most importantly, a new complaint system allowed citizens to report directly to federal oversight, bypassing the department entirely. Torres himself had been promoted to Community Relations Sergeant, a new position created specifically for officers willing to bridge the gap between police and residents. Agent Reeves didn't just save herself that day, Torres told the gathered media. She saved our entire department from itself. 6 months after Diana's arrest, the statistics told the story of transformation. Complaints against the 47th Precinct dropped by 78%. Community trust surveys showed the highest approval ratings in the city. Use of force incidents fell to near 0. Diana returned to her brownstone every evening, no longer worried about Karen's surveillance or false reports. Her new neighbors, the ones who'd moved in after Karen's house was foreclosed, waved warmly from their windows. Mrs. Patterson, who'd filmed Diana's arrest, had become an unlikely ally and community organizer. She helped establish neighborhood watch groups focused on actual safety, not racial profiling. The ripple effects extended far beyond one precinct. Diana's case became the template for federal intervention in police departments nationwide. The Reeves Protocol was implemented in cities across America, giving federal agents new tools to investigate and prosecute police bias. But perhaps the most satisfying moment came during a community meeting 6 months later, when a young black mother approached Diana with tears in her eyes. Agent Reeves, my son can walk through this neighborhood now without fear. Because of what you went through, because you didn't break, my child is safe. Justice wasn't just about punishment, it was about transformation. And transformation had come to stay. The hunter had become the protector, and her protection extended to every citizen who'd ever been judged by their skin color instead of their character. Diana's story reminds us that beneath every assumption lies a human being with their own truth, their own power, their own right to dignity. The woman Officer Daniels saw as a threat was actually the solution to everything wrong with his department. But this isn't just Diana's story, it's America's story. Every day, people make split-second judgments based on race, class, appearance, or accent. Every day, someone's potential is dismissed before they even speak. Every day, assumptions destroy opportunities for connection, understanding, and justice. The statistics are sobering. Black Americans are 3 times more likely to be arrested in their own neighborhoods than white residents. False police reports targeting minority residents have increased 47% in gentrifying areas over the past 5 years. But Diana's case proves that change is possible when systems are held accountable. Today, the 47th Precinct serves as a model for police reform nationwide. Officer Torres leads community policing initiatives that have been replicated in 37 cities. The Reeves Protocol for Federal Oversight has prevented dozens of similar incidents across the country. Karen Whitmore's conviction sent a powerful message. Weaponizing police against your neighbors has consequences. Federal prosecutors now actively investigate complaint patterns for racial bias. False reporting isn't just a misdemeanor anymore. It's a federal civil rights violation carrying serious prison time. Most importantly, Diana never stopped being who she was. She didn't let anger consume her or bitterness define her. She transformed her pain into purpose, her arrest into action, her humiliation into hope. 6 months after her arrest, Diana was promoted to Deputy Director of Internal Affairs, making her one of the most powerful law enforcement officials in the country. Her first initiative? Training programs teach officers to recognize their own bias before it destroys lives. Justice isn't revenge, Diana said during her promotion ceremony. Justice is making sure the next person doesn't have to go through what I went through. Her message resonates beyond law enforcement, in boardrooms where qualified candidates are overlooked for not fitting the culture, in schools where students are judged by zip codes instead of potential, in everyday interactions where humanity is secondary to assumptions. The transformation continues. Community oversight boards now include federal monitoring. Police training includes mandatory bias recognition. Citizens have direct access to federal complaint systems that bypass local departments entirely. But the most powerful change happened in individual hearts. Officers like Torres who found the courage to speak truth, neighbors like Mrs. Patterson who chose justice over comfort, citizens who realized their silence enabled injustice. Diana's arrest lasted 4 hours. Its impact will last generations. Today, that same brownstone where Diana was handcuffed serves as a community center. The rooms where she was humiliated now host police community dialogue sessions. The driveway where she was degraded now welcomes neighbors of every background for monthly unity gatherings. The irony is perfect. The place where bias tried to destroy her became the foundation for healing. What assumptions might you be making about the people around you? What biases might be shaping your judgments? What opportunities for understanding are you missing because you've already decided who someone is before learning who they really are? The next time you see someone who doesn't look like you in a space where you think they don't belong, remember Diana's story. Remember that the person you're judging might be exactly the person you need. Hit that like button if Diana's story changed how you see assumptions. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe to Black Voices Uncut for more stories that prove justice is possible when ordinary people refuse to accept injustice. What's your Diana story? Tell us in the comments below.
At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the pain or water down the message. We tell it like it is because the truth deserves nothing less. If today's story spoke to you, click like, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe so you'll be here for the next Uncut Voice.
I don't serve animals. Derek Hammond's words cut through the restaurant. He grabbed the burger the black man had waited 22 minutes for and slammed it into the trash. The lid rattled against the wall. You people walk in expecting equal treatment? Look at your skin, then look at everyone eating here, Derek said, pointing at the man's dark hands, then sweeping toward the dining room of white customers. See the difference? People with your skin color don't belong in my restaurant. Get out before I call the cops and say you threatened me. The man, 50s, hospital scrubs, 12-hour shift finished, stood trembling. Not from fear, from humiliation. He walked out without a word. What Derek missed. Someone in the corner booth recorded everything. In 36 hours, that video would destroy Derek completely. Andrew Collins sat frozen in the corner booth, phone still recording in his trembling hand. He'd watched Derek throw that burger in the trash, watched the man in hospital scrubs walk out hungry and humiliated, watched 15 people look away like they'd seen nothing. I don't serve animals. Those words had been spoken in his restaurant, under his company name, using his dream as a shield for cruelty. Andrew stopped the recording. His hands shook so badly he nearly dropped the phone. This wasn't random. This wasn't one bad day. This was a system. Something that had been growing in the dark while he sat in his corner office counting revenue. He walked out through the same door the man in scrubs had used, needing air, needing to understand how his dream had rotted from the inside. 3 days earlier, Andrew had been staring at his computer at 3 a.m., unable to sleep, unable to ignore what the data was screaming. 47 complaints in 3 months, all from Peachtree, his flagship store. Every complaint the same. I felt unwelcome. They treated me like I didn't belong. White customers got better service. Your staff made me invisible. One complaint stopped his heart. I'm a black woman. Been coming 2 years. Last month, your manager told me maybe you'd be more comfortable somewhere else. I cried in my car for 20 minutes, never coming back. Andrew read it 5 times, each time feeling like someone was crushing his chest. But the metrics told a different story. Revenue at Peachtree, up 18%. Customer satisfaction, 4.2 stars. Labor efficiency, excellent. Derek Hammond was even up for a bonus. Derek had figured out how to make racism profitable. 5:48 a.m. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Mr. Collins? Young voice, female, terrified. I can't give my name. I work at Peachtree. You need to know what's happening. Andrew sat up. What's happening? Derek trains us to treat black customers different. He has a system, codes, a notebook. He calls it customer optimization, but it's racism. He teaches us to make black people wait longer, give them attitude, make them unwelcome so they stop coming back. Andrew's blood ran cold. A system? Hand signals that tell us to slow down or speed up based on the customer. He never says it out loud, but we all know. And if you don't follow his rules, he threatens your job. Mr. Collins, I have a daughter. I need this job, but I can't keep doing this. Someone has to stop him. Tell me your name, I'll click. She hung up. Andrew sat in the dark, thinking about his food truck 15 years ago. The hand-painted sign, Unity Eats, good food, no barriers. His first customer, an older black man, had smiled. You treat everybody the same. That's rare. That's the whole point, young Andrew had answered. Now, at 45, with 12 locations and $8 million in revenue, he couldn't remember the last time he'd worked a register. The last time he'd been present where his dream lived. He'd been absent. And Derek had built an empire of cruelty in that absence. Andrew pulled out his old food truck hoodie, faded, stained, torn, rubbed dirt on his sneakers, removed his Rolex. The man in the mirror looked like someone Derek wouldn't recognize, wouldn't respect, wouldn't serve. He drove to Peachtree at lunch rush and watched the system operate. White customers fast-tracked, black customers slow-walked, smiles versus cold shoulders, fresh food versus cooled meals left under heat lamps. Then Derek threw that burger in the trash and called a man an animal. Andrew stood in the parking lot watching the healthcare worker drive away, beat-up Honda, Healthcare Heroes Work Here sticker on the bumper. Something inside Andrew crystallized into diamond-hard clarity. He called his lawyer. Patricia, I need termination paperwork by tomorrow morning. Airtight. Derek Hammond and probably Greg Hamilton. I have recordings. Evidence of systematic discrimination. I have a company to save. Silence. Then, ready by 8 a.m. Andrew looked back at the restaurant where Derek was probably laughing about what he'd done. Tomorrow, Derek would learn what happened when you built hate on someone else's dream. Tomorrow, Unity Eats would remember its name. Tonight, Andrew had one more thing to do. He needed to find that man in the hospital scrubs, needed to look him in the eye and apologize, needed to tell him that what happened today would never happen again. Because a CEO who lets injustice happen in his own building while he sits in an office tower isn't a leader. He's an accomplice, and Andrew was done being absent. Andrew returned to Peachtree the next day at 11:43 a.m. Different disguise, construction worker, orange safety vest, paint-stained jeans, dirt under his fingernails. He'd rubbed drywall dust into his clothes at a hardware store. Same corner booth, ordered nothing, just watched. Derek was already working the floor with the confidence of someone who believed he was untouchable. Andrew pulled out his phone, angled it like he was scrolling social media. The camera recorded everything. 11:58 a.m. Lunch crowd started. A young black woman, maybe 25, stepped up to register 3. Business casual, office worker on lunch break. "Can I get the bacon cheeseburger meal?" Derek appeared behind the teenage cashier like a shadow. Tapped the counter twice. The cashier, Terrell, his name tag read, tensed. His fingers, flying across the screen seconds ago, suddenly slowed to a crawl. "That'll be just a moment while the system loads," Terrell said, though the screen had already processed everything. He was stalling, following Derek's signal. Behind her, a white man in a suit stepped up to register 2. "Bacon cheeseburger meal Coke." The cashier there entered it instantly. 10 seconds, done. Andrew checked his watch. White man ordered 12:03. Black woman 12:01. At 12:08, the white man walked away with steaming food. At 12:19, 18 minutes later, the black woman was still waiting, shifting weight, checking her phone, clearly worried about getting back to work. When her food came, she opened the bag. Her face fell. Room temperature burger. Stale bun. She'd ordered no onions, it was covered in onions. She looked at Derek, who watched with arms crossed and a slight smirk. She didn't complain, just left with the cold, wrong food. Andrew's jaw clenched. At 12:34, Derek pulled out a small black notebook from under the register. Andrew zoomed his camera. Derek was writing, 12:01, order #52, S, 15 minutes hold. 12:03, order #48, P standard. 12:15, order #61, S, cold station, S and P, standard and priority. Derek flipped back through pages. The notebook was full, months of entries. This wasn't new. This was refined, systematic, documented. Derek tucked it back and walked to the kitchen, said something to the cooks. One shook his head, looking uncomfortable. At 12:41, a new employee arrived. 16, first day. Name tag, Marcus. Derek pulled him aside near the drink station. Their voices carried clearly to Andrew's booth. "Marcus, customer service is about efficiency. Some customers appreciate what we do. Respect this place. They get priority. Fast, friendly, fresh food. Understand?" "Yes, sir." "Others," Derek's voice dropped. "Others come in with attitudes, entitled, from neighborhoods where they don't teach respect. Those customers we handle differently. Polite, but we don't rush. Don't waste energy. Got it?" Marcus looked confused. "How do I know which is which?" Derek smiled, the ugliest smile Andrew had ever seen. "You'll know. Trust me. Watch me. I'll signal. 2 taps means slow down. 1 tap means normal. But that's how we keep standards high, maintain the right clientele. Collins built this company, but he's never here. I run this store. I decide who feels welcome and who doesn't. Clear?" "Yes, sir." Andrew's recording caught every word. Derek training a child to discriminate. At 12:52, an older black man walked in, late 60s, using a cane, wearing a veteran's cap. He approached register 3. Derek was there instantly, didn't even let him finish ordering. "We're out of most items. 20-minute wait minimum. Maybe try somewhere else?" The veteran looked confused. "But that customer just 20 minutes." Derek's voice was ice. "Your choice." The man looked around the half-full restaurant, saw white customers eating food they'd received in minutes, understood exactly what was happening, and left without another word. That's when something broke inside Andrew. Not the racism itself. He'd expected that after the anonymous call. But the casual cruelty of it, the way Derek smiled after the veteran left, the way the teenage employees looked sick but said nothing because they needed their jobs, the way customers of color had learned to just accept humiliation as the price of trying to eat lunch. This was his company. His name, his dream being used as a weapon. Andrew stood, walked to Register 3. Time to experience Derek's system firsthand. Time to give Derek enough rope to hang himself. Time to show Derek what happened when you built evil in someone else's house. Andrew stepped up to Register 3. Terrell looked up, saw another black customer in work clothes, and his shoulders sagged. "Welcome to Unity Eats. What can I get you?" "Cheeseburger combo, medium Coke." Terrell's fingers moved to the screen, then stopped. His eyes flicked toward Derek, who tapped the counter twice. Terrell's typing slowed. Each keystroke became an act of resistance against his own hands. "That'll be $8.50. Cash or card?" "Cash." Andrew handed over a 10. Terrell leaned toward the kitchen mic. "Order 124, standard pace, Boss Protocol." Boss Protocol. They had a name for it. Terrell counted change with trembling hands. "Sorry, sir, kitchen's backed up. 10 to 12 minutes. Andrew glanced left. A white woman who'd ordered after him already had her food, steam rising, fresh. "Is it always this slow?" Terrell's face cracked. Pure anguish flashed before he buried it. He leaned in, whispered, "I'm so sorry. I need this job." 5 words. Not sorry for the wait, but I'm so sorry for what he was forced to do. "I need this job," the chains holding him. "Not your fault," Andrew said softly. Terrell looked up, confused. "I see you." Terrell's eyes glistened. He nodded once and turned away before tears could fall. Andrew moved to pick up, positioned where he could still see everything. Derek at the kitchen, Terrell at register, employees moving with mechanical precision. 3 more cycles. Black customer, slow typing, long wait, cool food. White customer, fast service, fresh meal, smile every time, clockwork. 1:14 p.m., 15 minutes later, they called his number. Andrew opened the bag. Cold burger, stale bun, soggy fries from sitting under heat lamps. He'd ordered extra pickles. None. Not just slow service, deliberate degradation, intentional humiliation. A message: you don't deserve better. Andrew stared at that pathetic meal. Thought about the healthcare worker who'd had food thrown in trash. The woman with the wrong order. The veteran turned away. Terrell forced to be complicit just to survive. His company, his name, his dream weaponized. He pulled out his phone. Called his head of security. "I need something done quietly. Tonight. Access to Peachtree's security footage from the last 6 months. Everything. Employee schedules, complaint logs, Derek Hammond's personnel file without anyone knowing. Consider it done." Andrew took one bite of the cold burger to remember what it felt like, what his customers felt. Then he made another call, his lawyer. "Patricia, it's worse than I thought. I have video of Derek training a teenager to discriminate. I have recordings of him calling it Boss Protocol. I watched him turn away a veteran. I experienced it myself. What do you need?" "Emergency meeting protocols. I'm calling every Peachtree employee in tomorrow morning. 6 a.m., before opening. I need termination paperwork for Derek Hammond Ironclad. And I need employee protection agreements. Anyone who testifies gets guaranteed job security plus financial protection." "Andrew, if you're doing this publicly, I'm doing it in front of everyone. They need to see that speaking up works, that the system protects them, not the abusers." Silence, then, "I'll have everything ready by 5 a.m. One more thing. I need promotion paperwork. Assistant manager position for Terrell Bryant. The kid at Register 3? He's been forced to do terrible things to keep his job. Tomorrow I'm going to show him that doing the right thing, even when it's hard, gets rewarded. That integrity matters more than obedience. I'll add it to the packet." Andrew ended the call. Looked back at the restaurant where Derek was laughing with another employee, completely unaware that his world was about to collapse. Tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., Derek would face every person he'd terrorized. And Andrew would make sure everyone understood. Unity Eats was about to remember what its name meant. Andrew didn't go home that night. He sat in his car across from Peachtree until dinner rush started at 6:30 p.m., then walked back in wearing different clothes. A janitor's uniform he'd bought from a uniform supply store. The evening crowd was thinner, maybe 15 customers, but Derek was still there, past the 10-hour mark of his shift. Why would a manager work 12-hour days unless he couldn't trust anyone else to maintain his system? Andrew took a seat near the bathrooms, partially hidden by a support column. He ordered nothing, just watched. The pattern continued. Black customer at 6:38. given the backed-up kitchen excuse, waited 19 minutes. White customer at 6:40, food ready in 5. The disparity was more blatant with fewer witnesses, like Derek felt safer being cruel when crowds thinned. But Andrew noticed something else. The way employees moved around Derek, giving him wide berth, never making eye contact unless called upon, operating with nervous energy. This wasn't just discrimination against customers. This was a culture of fear. At 7:15 p.m., Andrew walked toward the bathroom. As he passed the employee break room, he heard voices. The door was cracked open. Terrell's voice. "I can't keep doing this, Shanice. 3 years of college left, $20,000 in student loans. I can't afford to lose this job, but I can't keep looking people in the eye and treating them like they're worth less." "You think I don't know?" A woman's voice, older, exhausted. "My son is 8. Last week he asked why I cry in the car before coming inside. How do I explain that his mama spends 40 hours a week making people feel invisible?" Andrew pressed against the wall, phone recording. "I tried talking to Derek once," Terrell said. "You know what he did? Smiled at me, said, 'You want me to write you up for insubordination? That goes on your record. Good luck getting another job with that following you.' He was so calm, like he was helping me." Someone was crying softly. "Shanice, we're trapped. Nobody cares because the numbers look good." Terrell's voice dropped lower. "I saw the customer complaint log last month when Derek left it out. 43 complaints about discrimination in 3 months. Corporate sent them to Derek to handle internally. He threw them away, every single one." Andrew's hands clenched. The complaints reached corporate, his desk, but only 4. Derek was intercepting and destroying the rest. "What are we supposed to do?" Shanice asked. "I called that corporate hotline once, anonymous. They transferred me to regional manager Greg Hamilton, and Greg's Derek's best friend. They go fishing together." I hung up. Greg Hamilton, Andrew's regional manager, the man he'd promoted for outstanding operational excellence. "I'm thinking about quitting," Terrell said. "Even if it means dropping out for a semester, I can't do this anymore. Every time I hit those keys slower, every time I make someone wait for no reason except their skin color, I lose a piece of myself. Don't quit. Don't let him win. Someone's going to stop him eventually." "Who?" "Collins is never here. He probably doesn't even know our names." That hit Andrew like a physical blow. They were suffering, and they thought he didn't care, thought he didn't even know they existed. He walked to the bathroom and locked himself in a stall, put his head in his hands and breathed through the wave of guilt and fury. At 8:02 p.m., Andrew emerged and saw Derek outside the back door, phone to his ear. The door was propped open, Derek's voice carrying across the parking lot. Andrew moved closer, staying in shadows near the dumpster. "Telling you, the system works. Marietta Store's numbers are up 12% since you started implementing it." Andrew's heart stopped. Marietta, another location. "Corporate doesn't check service times by demographic. They don't think to look at it that way. All they see is revenue up, efficiency excellent. They have no idea we're curating the customer base." Curating the customer base. Right, exactly. The beauty is plausible deniability. We never say anything explicit. All hand signals, verbal codes, informal training. Nothing in writing except my personal notebook, and corporate will never see that. Collins built this company on unity, but he's too busy playing CEO to notice what's happening on the ground. Derek laughed, cold, calculated. "The problem customers stop coming back, that's the point. We're improving the guest experience for our target demographic by removing friction from people who don't fit the brand image. You know what I mean?" Andrew wanted to end this call by ending Derek's employment on the spot. But he needed more, needed to know how deep this went. "I'll send you the training manual I wrote. Nothing official, just notes for managers who get it. We'll call it Operational Efficiency Protocols if anyone asks." Pause. "Yeah, Greg's rolling it out to all 4 of his stores by end of quarter. Decatur starts next week." Greg Hamilton. 4 stores. Coordinated conspiracy. "Listen, I gotta go. Kitchen's closing soon, but trust me, do it right, nobody ever knows. And the results speak for themselves. Collins will probably give us both bonuses." Derek laughed and ended the call. Andrew stood in darkness, phone recording everything, feeling something crystallize inside him. This wasn't just Derek. This was Greg. This was other managers. This was cancer metastasizing while he wasn't looking. At 10:52 p.m., store lights went off. Employees trickled out, Terrell and Shanice together, both looking like they'd aged 5 years. Then Derek emerged, locked up, walked to his truck. Andrew waited 30 seconds, then followed. Derek drove 4 miles to a 24-hour diner called Miller's. Andrew parked 3 rows back. At 11:08 p.m., another vehicle pulled up. A silver Lexus with personalized plate. Greg Hamilton. Andrew grabbed his phone, got out, walked into the diner, grabbed a newspaper, slid into a booth with clear view of Derek and Greg in the back corner. Andrew held the newspaper up, phone propped against the sugar caddy, recording. Derek slid something across the table, the black notebook. Greg picked it up, flipped through. Beautiful work. 18 months of documentation. Customer cycle time down 8%. Complaint rate from target demographics down 15%. You've weaponized efficiency. Exactly, Derek said, pride in his voice. And Collins doesn't have a clue. As long as we keep revenue climbing, he stays in his ivory tower. We need to scale this. I want your system in all my stores. Marietta's running it. Decatur next week. Roswell and Sandy Springs by end of month. What about employees who push back? Same as always, cut their hours until they quit. Document false performance issues, make their lives difficult. We don't fire them. That creates paper trails. We make them not want to stay. Derek nodded. What about that kid at Register 3, Terrell? The one who's too empathetic? Yeah, getting soft. I caught him giving a black customer extra fries last week. Free, like he was apologizing. Greg's face hardened. Cut him to 15 hours a week. If he doesn't quit in 2 weeks, write him up for something, uniform violation, whatever. Build a file, then terminate him. They were planning to destroy Terrell for being kind. Collins built this company on unity bullshit, Derek said. But that doesn't scale. That doesn't maximize profit. We're doing what actual business leaders do. Optimizing for the right customer base, eliminating waste, driving efficiency. Exactly. And when the stock goes public next year like Collins is planning, we'll be the ones who made it happen. We'll get our cut. They shook hands. Andrew had seen enough, heard enough, recorded enough. He stood, left cash for the coffee he hadn't touched, and walked out, sat in his car, played back the video. Crystal clear, every word, every gesture, every moment of conspiracy. He called his lawyer, past midnight. She answered on the first ring. I have them, all of it. Video, audio, conspiracy across multiple locations, employee retaliation plans, everything. What do you need? Emergency meeting tomorrow, 6 a.m., all Peachtree staff, security on standby, termination paperwork for Derek Hammond and Greg Hamilton. Ironclad. I'm not just firing them. I'm making sure everyone sees what happens when you betray everything this company stands for. I'll be ready. Andrew ended the call, looked at the diner where Derek and Greg were still plotting. In 7 hours, their world would end. Andrew didn't sleep. He drove straight from the diner to corporate headquarters, arriving at 1:23 a.m. The building was empty except security, who nodded as he passed. His office felt different now. The awards on the wall, fastest growing restaurant chain, CEO of the year, looked like monuments to his failure. He'd been collecting trophies while his employees were terrorized and customers degraded. He plugged his phone into his computer and transferred every recording. The diner video was perfect. Clear audio, Derek and Greg's faces visible, the black notebook exchanged on camera. 18 minutes of conspiracy in 4K. He created a new folder. Peachtree Investigation Evidence. Then he organized everything. Video 1. Derek throwing burger in trash, calling customer animal. Yesterday, 12:43 p.m. Duration 2 minutes, 18 seconds. Video 2. Derek training Marcus to discriminate, teaching hand signals. Collins is never here. Today, 12:41 p.m. Duration 4 minutes, 32 seconds. Audio 1. Terrell and Shanice in break room. Derek's threats, destroyed complaints, fear of retaliation. Today, 7:15 p.m. Duration 6 minutes, 11 seconds. Audio 2. Derek's phone call. Discussing Marietta store, curating customer base, spreading the system. Today, 8:02 p.m. Duration 3 minutes, 48 seconds. Video 3, diner meeting, the smoking gun, black notebook exchanged, plans for 4 stores, plans to destroy Terrell. Today, 11:08 p.m. Duration, 18 minutes, 22 seconds. Andrew played the diner video again. Watched Greg say, "You've weaponized efficiency." Watched them shake hands on destroying Terrell's career for showing empathy. His phone rang. Patricia, his lawyer. "I've been reviewing the recordings," she said. "This is ironclad. Conspiracy to discriminate, retaliation, destruction of company property. They're finished. Walk me through tomorrow. 6 a.m. emergency meeting. I'll be there with security and termination paperwork. You show the evidence publicly. The employees need to see that speaking up works, that you believe them, that the system protects victims. Legal exposure for the company? You're doing exactly right. Immediate corrective action. Terminating responsible parties, implementing new policies. Any lawyer will see a CEO who acted decisively. You're protected." Can Derek and Greg sue? Let them try. We have video of them conspiring to discriminate and planning illegal retaliation. They'd be laughed out of court. Plus, Georgia is at will. Even without cause, you could terminate. But you have mountains of cause. The employees who were forced to participate? You're treating them as victims. Protection, promotion for Terrell, counseling services. You're building a case study and handling this correctly. Andrew pulled up Terrell's promotion letter. Assistant manager, $45,000 salary, education stipend. He'd signed it an hour ago. What about the other stores Greg mentioned? Phase 2. After Peachtree announced company-wide investigation, anonymous hotline to external ethics firm, mystery shoppers, service time audits by demographic. Andrew thought about the anonymous caller. I need to find who called me, the woman who first reported this. My guess? Shanice. She mentioned calling corporate and hanging up when transferred to Greg. She probably called your direct line instead. That made sense, Andrew noted. Thanks, Shanice, publicly. They finalized logistics. Security at 5:45 a.m. All Peachtree employees texted for mandatory 6 a.m. meeting. Derek thought it was routine corporate audit. He had no idea. At 3:15 a.m., Andrew's head of security called. I have the footage you requested. The man Derek humiliated. Hospital scrubs. I pulled exterior cameras, got his plate, ran it. William Foster, 56, nurse at Grady Memorial, 28 years. I have his contact info. Send it. I'll call him after the meeting. Andrew hung up. Sat as the sky shifted from black to deep blue. Dawn coming. In 2 hours, Derek and Greg would walk into that restaurant expecting a normal Thursday. Instead, they'd face every person they'd terrorized, every policy they'd violated, every value they'd betrayed. Andrew pulled the black notebook from his bag. He'd gone back to the diner at 2 a.m., talked to the night manager, explained he was investigating employee misconduct, showed his CEO credentials. The manager had checked security footage, found the notebook on the floor under Derek's booth, handed it over. Andrew opened it now, page after page of coded discrimination. 18 months, hundreds of entries. Order hash 52, S, cold hold, 15 minutes. Order hash 48, P, priority fresh. Derek had built an entire system, documented his cruelty like he was proud of it. Tomorrow, this notebook would be evidence. Tomorrow, Derek would learn that pride comes before the fall. Andrew stood, grabbed his keys, time to go end this. Andrew arrived at Peachtree at 5:38 a.m. Patricia pulled in behind him carrying 2 briefcases. Security's 2 minutes out. Everything's ready. At 5:52 a.m., employees started arriving. Terrell first, looking worried, then Shanice, Lisa, Marcus, kitchen staff. By 5:58, all 14 employees stood in the dining room whispering nervously. Derek pulled up at 5:59, looking annoyed but not concerned. Another corporate audit. He had no idea. At 6 a.m., Andrew walked through the door in his construction clothes, dirty vest, paint-stained jeans. Derek's face twisted. Sir, we're closed for a meeting. Leave. Andrew walked to center of the dining room, set down his bag, pulled out his employee badge from 15 years ago and placed it on the counter. Silence. My name is Andrew Collins. I founded Unity Eats 15 years ago. Terrell's hand flew to his mouth. Derek went pale. Yesterday, I ordered a burger at Register 3. Andrew looked at Terrell. You served me. You whispered, standard pace, boss protocol. Then you said, I need this job. Terrell's eyes filled with tears, body shaking. I'm not here to fire you. Andrew turned to Derek. I'm here to fire him. Absolute silence. Mr. Collins, I don't know what. I recorded your conversation with Greg Hamilton last night. Miller's Diner, 11 p.m. Andrew pulled out his phone. Want me to play it? Derek's mouth opened. Nothing. Andrew tapped play. Greg's voice through the speaker. Customer cycle time down 8%. You've weaponized efficiency. Gasps. Shanice covered her mouth. Derek's voice. Collins doesn't have a clue. As long as revenue climbs, he stays in his tower. Andrew stopped it. I have 18 minutes of you discussing your priority system, training employees to discriminate, retaliating against resistors, spreading this to other stores. Those are just efficiency? Andrew threw transcripts on the table. You told Greg to cut Terrell to 15 hours because he's too empathetic. You plan to destroy his career for giving a customer extra fries. Terrell made a sound like he'd been punched. Andrew played another video. Derek's voice. I don't serve animals. The burger hitting trash. People like you don't belong. Multiple gasps. Marcus looked sick. That man was William Foster, 56, nurse at Grady Memorial, 28 years. Just finished saving lives. You threw his food in trash and called him an animal. You're going to believe I'm that guy. Andrew's voice cut sharp. I was there, disguised. I watched you humiliate him. Yesterday I watched you do it to others. Watched you train a 16-year-old to discriminate. Heard you tell him I'm never here. He stepped closer. I heard Terrell and Shanice crying in the break room because you forced them to betray their values to keep their jobs. I heard you destroy 43 customer complaints instead of forwarding them. Derek looked around. Every employee avoided his eyes. You can't prove. You called a customer an animal. You told a teenager certain customers don't teach respect in their neighborhoods. You have a notebook. Andrew held it up. Coding black customers S and white customers P. 18 months of documented discrimination. Derek stared at the notebook. You told Greg you're curating the customer base, making problem customers stop coming. That's racism. In my restaurant, with my company's name, corrupting my employees, destroying my dream. Andrew pulled out the termination letter. Derek Hammond, you're fired. Gross misconduct. Conspiracy to discriminate, hostile work environment, destruction of company property, securities outside. 10 minutes to clear your locker. You can't. I have rights. You're at will. You violated federal law and company policy. My lawyer documented everything. You're done. Patricia stepped forward with security guards. This company would be nothing without managers who understand business. Get out of my restaurant. Security moved toward Derek. He grabbed his jacket, looked around for sympathy, found none. You'll regret this. No. I regret it took this long to find out, but firing you, never. Security escorted Derek to the back. A locker slammed. 5 minutes later, Derek walked past carrying a box flanked by guards. He didn't look at anyone. The door closed. Long silence. Is this real? Terrell asked. Andrew turned to him. Yes, and I owe all of you an apology. He pulled up a chair, sat at their level, not above them. Made eye contact with each person. I built this company and disappeared from the floor. My absence let this happen. You were forced to compromise your integrity to keep your jobs. That's on me. I should have been here. Mr. Collins, Terrell started. No, let me finish. You tried to do right and got threatened. Shanice, you called for help and got transferred to Greg, Derek's friend. You felt trapped because you were trapped. I failed you. Shanice was crying. We wanted to tell someone but didn't know who to trust. You can trust me. From now on, I'm going to prove that every single day. He pulled out his tablet, connected it to the TV. I worked with my legal team all night. I want to show you what changes, starting today. The screen showed a document. Unity Eats Anti-Discrimination Policy, version 2.0. Andrew pointed to the screen. First change, anonymous reporting hotline. Goes directly to my phone and an external ethics firm. Not regional managers, not HR. To me and independent investigators. Click. Second, mandatory anti-bias training. Every manager quarterly. Fail and you don't manage. People leaned forward. Third, mystery shoppers, diverse backgrounds. Every location monthly. They document service times, food quality, behavior. Reports come to me. Click. Fourth, service time tracking by demographic. Third-party monthly audit. Any disparity, we investigate immediately. Shanice raised her hand. What about retaliation? Fifth policy, employee protection. Report discrimination. You're protected by contract. Any manager who retaliates faces $50,000 personal penalty plus termination. You can't be fired, demoted, or lose hours for speaking up. Ever. Legally binding. Relief washed over faces. People who'd held their breath for months finally exhaled. Sixth, Greg Hamilton fired, effective immediately. He conspired with Derek to spread this across stores. Done. Murmurs of shock. I'm restructuring regional management, more oversight, more accountability, more presence. Seventh, Andrew looked at Terrell. I'm promoting from within. People who showed integrity even when it cost them. He pulled an envelope from his bag, walked to Terrell, handed it over. What's this? Open it. Terrell tore the envelope, pulled out a letter. Eyes went wide. Assistant manager? Me? You? 45,000 salary, full benefits, education stipend for college, starts today. Terrell's legs went weak. He sat down hard. I don't understand. Andrew knelt to eye level. Yesterday you were forced to discriminate and hated every second. You treated me with dignity despite Derek's system. You apologized even though it wasn't your fault. You're exactly the leader I need. What if I'm not ready? I wasn't ready either, but I cared. That's enough to begin with. Andrew stood, addressed everyone. Terrell knows what discrimination looks like from inside. He's lived it. That makes him perfect to help me ensure it never happens again. What do I say? Say yes. Help me fix this. Yes. Whisper. Yes. Andrew handed him a new name tag. Terrell Bryant, assistant manager. Terrell held it like gold. Andrew picked up the black notebook, walked to the trash can. This documented 18 months of cruelty, systematic dehumanization. Everything Unity Eats was built to fight. He looked at Terrell. Want to do the honors? Terrell stood, walked over, took the notebook with both hands. He stared at it. This made me feel like I was betraying people who looked like me every day. I'd go home and couldn't look at myself. You were a victim, Andrew said. Not a traitor. Never forget that. Terrell held it over the trash. For everyone who felt invisible here, for William Foster and every customer Derek humiliated, for every person who walked out hungry because someone decided they didn't deserve to eat. He dropped it. The notebook hit bottom with a satisfying thud. Shanice started clapping, then Lisa, then everyone. Cathartic, desperate, grateful applause from people who'd been trapped and were finally free. Terrell stood straight, head high for the first time since Andrew met him. Weight lifted, chains broken. Andrew raised his hands. Applause died. One more thing. New rule. I visit every store unannounced, once a month minimum, forever. No more office. I'm walking floors, working registers, talking to customers, seeing what you see. He handed out printed policies. Read these. My cell number's on the last page. Real cell. Text me. Call me. I'll answer. Marcus raised his hand. What about the other stores Derek mentioned? Already investigating. Anonymous reports from Marietta, Decatur, Roswell. If there's rot anywhere, I'll cut it out. Promise. Andrew checked his watch. 7:18 a.m. We open in 42 minutes. I'm staying for lunch rush. I want to see Unity Eats done right. You're not Derek's victims anymore. You're my partners ensuring this never happens again. Questions? Silence. Not scared silence. Hopeful silence. Like people underwater who'd finally broken surface. Can I ask something? Shanice said. Anything. Why come yourself? You could have sent corporate, fired him quietly. Why risk going undercover? Andrew thought. Because spreadsheet numbers don't tell what's really happening. Revenue can climb while people are destroyed. I needed to see it, feel it, experience what my customers experienced, and understand how badly I'd failed by not being present. He looked around. I built this on a promise that everyone deserves dignity. Somewhere I forgot promises don't keep themselves. They require presence, vigilance, willingness to walk the floor and see truth even when it's ugly. Terrell spoke, voice stronger. You could have just fired Derek. Why all this? Policies, hotline, mystery shoppers? Because firing Derek isn't enough. Systems create Dereks. If I don't change the system, someone else steps into his shoes and does the same thing. Real change isn't punishing bad people. It's building systems that make it impossible for bad people to thrive. Andrew picked up his bag. Now let's show this neighborhood what Unity Eats really stands for. Terrell, your running point. I'll work register too. Let's do this right. For the first time in months, the Peachtree team smiled. Real smiles. the kind that reach your eyes. 3 weeks later, the Peachtree Unity Eats at 12:28 p.m. on a Tuesday felt different. The energy had changed, lighter, warmer, like someone had opened windows in a room sealed shut too long. Andrew sat in his corner booth working through reports, mostly watching. Watching Terrell manage lunch rush like he'd been doing it for years instead of weeks. Watching staff move with confidence instead of fear. Watching customers, diverse customers, get the same fast, friendly service regardless of who they were. A black woman in her 60s approached the counter. Andrew recognized her from the complaints file. She'd written about crying in her car after Derek told her to go somewhere else. She was back. Terrell greeted her with a genuine smile. "Welcome to Unity Eats. What can I get you?" She ordered the bacon cheeseburger meal. Terrell's fingers flew across the screen. No hesitation, no looking over his shoulder for signals. 4 minutes, ma'am. Thank you, baby. While waiting, her eyes landed on the new poster by the register, the Unity Pledge. We see every customer. We serve every customer with dignity. We treat every customer the same. No exceptions. Unity. That's new, she said. Yes, ma'am. It's how we do things now, how we should have always done things. 4 minutes later, Terrell called her number. She opened the bag, fresh burger, steam rising, extra napkins. She took a bite right there. Her face lit up. Now that's what I'm talking about. She looked at Terrell. I stopped coming 6 months ago. My friend said something changed. She was right. Thank you. Thank you for giving us another chance. Andrew watched and felt something settle in his chest. That moment, dignity restored, made everything worth it. At 2 p.m., Terrell joined Andrew during his break with 2 drinks. You don't have to sit with me. Breaks are for actual breaks. I know, but I wanted to talk. Terrell slid into the seat. I almost quit the day before you came undercover. Andrew set down his pen. What stopped you? My mom. She said, baby, sometimes you gotta outlast the evil to see the good. I didn't believe her, but she was right. Terrell sipped his drink. She wants to meet you. Says any man who'd go undercover to protect his employees is worth knowing. I'd like that. Comfortable silence. Then Terrell said, I'm glad you came back. To the floor. That's where the truth lives. Took me 15 years to remember. Andrew looked around. Diverse crowd, genuine smiles, everything finally feeling right. What happens if they come back? Not Derek, but someone like him. Someone who tries to start this again. Terrell thought. That's why I'm here. Why these policies exist. Why you visit monthly. You can't be everywhere, but I can be here. Shanice can be here. Lisa, Marcus, we know what it looks like when things go wrong. We're the guardrails. That's a lot of responsibility. I can handle it. No hesitation, just quiet confidence. Good. Next month, I'm taking you to Marietta. We got anonymous tips. I want your eyes on it. Terrell straightened. Seriously? You know what to look for better than anyone. We're going in together. Undercover. Like a team? Exactly like a team. At 3 p.m., Andrew's phone buzzed. 7 messages through the anonymous hotline. Marietta manager does the same thing Derek did. Help. Decatur store told me to prioritize certain customers first day. A Roswell manager threatened me when I treated everyone equal. You believe Terrell. Will you believe me? Andrew showed Terrell. 7 stores, Terrell said quietly. 7 people brave enough to speak up because they saw it works. Andrew replied to each. Tell me everything. You're protected. We're coming. He looked at Terrell. Clear your schedule next week. We're going undercover at Marietta. Time to clean house. Terrell nodded, something fierce in his eyes. Let's do it. Andrew glanced out the window, saw William Foster, the nurse Derek had humiliated, pulling in. Foster walked through the door, saw the changes, saw the Unity Pledge, saw Terrell's assistant manager name tag. Their eyes met. Foster smiled, a real smile. Then he got in line to order lunch. That moment. That was why Andrew had built this company. That was what Unity actually looked like. 6 months later, the Peachtree Unity Eats at 12:30 p.m. buzzed with the energy Andrew had dreamed of 15 years ago. Every table full, diverse crowd, laughter, fresh burgers and orders called out like music. Andrew stood near Register 3 watching Terrell manage the shift. No longer assistant manager. 3 months ago, Andrew promoted him again. Regional manager overseeing 4 stores, the position Greg Hamilton had corrupted. Terrell ran it differently, visited floors daily, Worked registers when busy, knew every employee by name. The man who'd whispered, "I need this job," while trembling now led with confidence. A customer approached. The same black man Derek had told, maybe try somewhere else, 6 months ago. He ordered from Marcus. Order entered immediately. Burger delivered in 3 minutes, 48 seconds. Fresh. Perfect. The man bit into it, smiled. Now that's what I'm talking about. Walking to his table, he passed Andrew. "Hey, didn't I see you here before?" Andrew smiled. "I'm here a lot." "Well, whatever changed 6 months ago, keep doing it. This place finally lives up to its name." Andrew's phone buzzed. Text from Patricia. 9 stores had similar problems, all cleaned up. Mystery shopper reports stellar. You did it. He looked at the wall of fame. Photos of all 180-plus Unity Eats employees. Real people coming to work with dignity, extending dignity to everyone they served. The core value poster hung above: see every customer, serve every customer, respect every customer. Terrell approached with 2 drinks. "Thought you might be thirsty." They clinked cups. "You said you'd visit once a month." "You've been here every week," Terrell said. "Can't stay away. This is where the work matters." Yeah, it is. Shanice, the anonymous caller who'd started everything, now led the culture committee, visiting stores to ensure compliance. The customer who'd stopped coming was back. Terrell, forced to discriminate, now led with integrity. Change didn't start in boardrooms. It started on the floor, where real people served real people. Where Unity's promise was kept or broken with every transaction. It started with one person brave enough to call, one person willing to listen, and a commitment to never look away again. If you've ever been told you don't belong somewhere because of how you look, if you've ever had someone throw your dignity in the trash, your story matters. Share this story. Let's make sure no one has to whisper, "I need this job," while being forced to hurt others. Your dignity is not negotiable. We see you, and we're not going back.